Hey guys, it's Max at MAPerformance here. We heard you guys wanted some more feedback on what the truck was all built out of and how it was all done, so we're going to give you guys a quick rundown on basically everything I've done for the last 4.5 years here. So I picked the truck up in Michigan in October of 2014. It's a 1989 Isuzu pickup. Back then they made a couple different SUV and pickup models of the Isuzu like off-road line, and yeah, these trucks were small and round in nature, so that was kind of the idea, was to get the front tires as close to the front bumper as possible. That way we're not fighting the body around the clipping points and stuff like that. We kind of made the decision to build the chassis completely from the ground up. So we cut the floor out, cut the firewall out, cut the front end off, cut the rear firewall off, took the bed off, scrapped the original chassis, and basically had a cab with fenders and box sides left. At that point, we built a jig on the ground, big square jig that hung out about a foot on all sides. When we did that, we basically came up off of that. The jig was square from corner to corner by a 1/16 of an inch, so that was kind of the basis of all of our measurements. I picked up the engine and transmission, I don't know, probably 2 months after I got the truck. It's a 1JZ with an R154 transmission, both of which are completely built all the way through now. Heads ported, built with Brian Crower, basically everything, cams, valves, springs, retainers, lockers. Brian Crower rods in the bottom end, CP pistons, so the engine should be pretty stout for about 800, but I don't think I'll make 800. The turbo is a Borg Warner S200. Twin scroll T4 setup. We're going to be running dual Comgate 40s. Dump tubes there, and these exit out the hood. Custom built manifold by me. Custom built charge piping, the whole intercooler. Suspension wise, front and rear, it's all 240SX suspension, so all of it's aftermarket, but it's all based on 240SX equipment. So we have modified knuckles, Voodoo 13 bump steer kit, Voodoo 13 tension rods with GK Tech lowers, DC racing coilover. Fuel system, as far as all my controls are pretty much all fuel pressure regulators, fuel lab. I have a radium fuel rail with Injector Dynamics 1050Xs. Custom built fuel hat in the back. Check that out. Custom built in-house by our CNC guy Derek. Dash 8 out, dash 6 back in. The rear suspension is 240SX as well. Again, with all the custom chassis stuff running through. This actually goes up to the main hoop and ties in with the halo bar around the top for more strength. So a lot of it's kind of Baja truck inspired, but it's a drift truck. So right here, see up in there, see how all that works. Oof, the inside was a lot of work. All the panels, all the floors, the firewall, the around of the bell housing and clutch actually is 11 gauge steel, as to where everywhere else is 14 gauge, and that's just in case we see the clutch packs or the flywheel let go or something like that. At least it'll have a tough barrier to get through, kind of like a scatter shield built in. What we did was cut the floor out completely, and then assembled the frame underneath inside the truck cab, and then built the caging, built all the door bars, everything, and then lifted the cab up off so that I could finish weld all of it. Mm-hmm. Once that was done and I was ready to close it back up, we dropped the cab back over top onto some pre-designated like positioning mounts so that we knew we were putting it right in the same spot. Once we did that, I ran through and I started to gusset the cab to the cage everywhere. That way it won't rattle itself loose or have any problems as far as that goes. So it's a fixed cab now completely. Yep, the ECU's AEM. I'm going to be switching my China pack to a AEM dash as well at some point. I need a steering wheel pretty bad. This is the steering wheel that came with the truck, little keepsake.
Nice.
So, lots of work in there. So now you can kind of get an idea of the underbody framing that we have running. The steering rack is actually solid mounted completely through here. So we actually did like a clamp around the steering rack itself right through the body. Hopefully it doesn't really put too much stress on it, but I've seen that quite a lot in aftermarket applications, so it should be okay. Still a lot of work left to do underneath here. Got to plumb the entire steering system. Some stuff to close off, run my clutch lines, and a few more electrical things.
Tell us about the exhaust. Looks pretty sweet.
The exhaust is a 3.5 inch outlet on the turbo, and then we merged to 3.5 oval through the middle right here. So no flex section, and that's because the engine is almost completely rigid mounted. Transmission's almost completely rigid mounted. The excessive manufacturing engine mounts very, very, very minimal amount of play. So the exhaust gets solid mounted to the transmission, and then you just kind of run some rubber hangers all the way back for damping through the exhaust system so you don't crack welds and stuff like that. And it's a race car, so if things happen, they happen, whatever. Prevent oval piping is very expensive, so had to keep the cost down on that one. We got the drive shaft in finally too, so that fits pretty minty. And that was from Proven Force up in Maple Grove. Did a really good job of sourcing my slip yoke and my rear flange, and I'm pretty sure they're 1310 U-joints. I'm not sure, they might be a little bigger than that, but something like that. You can kind of see the underside of the fuel cells here and where they're going to cross over. It's got the breather line above up there, and the crossover fuel down here, and that way they should hopefully, the idea is that they'll sort of baffle each other a little bit, but I'm sure I'll have to mess with that. Right now it's just a completely stock R200. Eventually limited slip or a spool or something, but got to get it roadworthy first here. GK Tech lowers on this one. I myself ran through and did support brackets on the entire subframe, so all this stuff, these little brackets underneath, up in here you can see them kind of, and then this big one right here. It's all custom built by me, all stuff I'd seen people do. Figured it'd be a good idea with how much stress and how stiff the chassis is. So the idea is to learn to drift with it, learn to drift well, and then just beat the life out of it. Hopefully the engine lasts quite a while. Got about $7,000 in the engine and 20 in the truck with discounts. So it's expensive, but it's gonna be worth it. So hope you guys like what you see.